A long discussion has always been done about whether Bollywood, or especially art of any kind, the Indian film industry, should separate itself from politics. I'm in conversation with an actor who from the beginning of her career has said that she will not do films that are misogynistic, she will not do films that are against her core ideals and against her own political ideologies. Now that is a difficult call to take in the industry, and not many actors do that. I'm talking about Sayani Gupta. Sayani, it's not easy to take that call. Tell me, how has that affected your career graph?
It's not affected at all. It's made it better.
It has?
No, again, I was thinking about this right now, that why is this whole thing about if you're an artist or if you're an actor, you cannot take a political stand, or it would be questioned much more than it would be if you were in another profession. We are individuals after all. We are human beings who live in society. We are a result of, the kind of upbringing we've had, the kind of education, conditioning we've sort of gone through. And we are individuals and citizens, So I think every individual has a way of seeing the world. I feel that, whether you're an actor or a musician or a sports person or a businessman or a lawyer or a doctor, you would have a certain understanding of the world and, the times you live in, for example. There will be issues that concern you. There would be issues that irk you. There would be things that make you happy. It's part of life, right? And I always feel that as actors, we are constantly reflecting or representing society. We are representing different characters, we are representing different worlds and milieu, and be it, different people from different religion or caste or social strata, political or economic, different kind of background. So I think one has to be a little aware of, slightly aware of what's happening around, and needs to have a worldview.
And I will start with that one particular tweet that you did around 16th, 17th December, which I thought took a lot of, honesty, and it looked like a very instant reaction, where you tweeted that entire selfie out where you had the biggest of actors, Ranveer, you had Ayushmann, you had a lot of actors taking a selfie with our Honorable Prime Minister, and you questioned that, saying that, and you tagged the actors in it, saying that now is the time you speak up, because at the time there was also violence happening around us with students in Jamia, in AMU.
That was the night.
Yeah, that was the night. And you put that tweet out. And what was going through you at the time?
So it happened when I was in bed. In fact, I was shooting in Lucknow, and I had a very early morning call time, but I started seeing the videos, and I mean, I'm still getting gooseflesh. The kind of videos that started circulating, there was so much violence. I had never seen. I mean, I've seen, some sort of clamp down on student protests and things like that. I have been in FTI myself when, 4 years ago, there was a 100-day strike that happened during the Gajendra Chauhan time. And there has been violence, but that kind of cold-blooded clamp down on students with tear gas, and just police just going into, what was happening in Aligarh, side by side what was happening in Jamia. It was devastating. And at that time, I remember I started I started crying, and I have had many nights where I felt helpless, not just this, but things that have been happening, things like lynching, for example, how people have been just acquitted, right? So there have been, I mean, just the massive increase of violence and the normalization of violence is something that is deeply disturbing, and I've always believed in non-violence through everything. Violence cannot be the solution for anything. Whether you're right or you're in the wrong, you cannot take to violence. And as administrators, as authority, as the government, as people who are already in power, you can't be using violence against students, and absolutely for no reason, So that was the time I remember I started pacing up and down in my room, and I called up Anubhav sir. I called up. I was like, "What do we do? And what is people saying? What are people doing?" And I remember this one photograph I had seen. I sort of wrote that tweet, and then I didn't do it. I was like, okay, never mind. Let me just not react. I should. A very close friend of mine always says you should respond and not react. You should take your time. And then again, I couldn't sit still. I was like, because you feel so helpless, I mean, I was sitting there, and then I saw people started out, they took to streets, in so many different cities at night, in the middle of the night. This was like 2 to 30 in the night. And people were just like coming out of their homes and saying, stop this, you cannot be doing this. And the tear gas videos were still coming out, different videos was coming out of Aligarh. And then, people, the Jamia library and things like that. And then I was like, you know what, I have to ask people. So these are the people I know, these are the people I've worked with. Some of them are my friends, some of them are my acquaintances. I know them, right? I cannot ask somebody I don't know because, I don't have the relationship. But it was, and I messaged Anubhav sir, should I tweet it? And he was like, just do whatever feels right, because there is no right and wrong right now. And I was like, yeah. And I spoke to Richa and Zishan after I had tweeted, but it was a moment of utter helplessness. I just wanted to reach out to the people I know and say that, listen guys, you are in a position of power. If you are in a position where you have a one-on-one you've had a one-on-one interaction with somebody who is in charge, then why don't you use that same power, the same camaraderie or same kind of rapport, if not camaraderie, at least the same kind of rapport to question. And because I'm not in that position, you are. And it was really like a call for help.
It did get people responded. Did they text you? And you obviously tagged Janveer, Ayushman, all of them.
No, none of them texted me. None of them texted me. No.
So you didn't get sort of any response or from their side saying that?
No. And I know that they, when I meet them, I haven't met any of them. When I meet them, I will have a conversation about this. But, I don't think it's a time to think about. I mean, these are very stupid, menial things that we're talking about. I mean, a lot is at stake right now. I mean, especially what has been happening and what happened in JNU the other day, and it's very scary. I think we should all be scared. So I think we should talk about larger issues right now and not like, oh, what did he say and what did she say and what did she do and it's a larger issue at hand.
What is it that you see today that is so disturbing? You have artists joining him, you have giving so many opinions on that very subject. But what do you think really needs to happen right now with artists, with otherwise people collaborating together to make some change?
I think we need to educate ourselves, first of all. I believe that, without information and education, there is no point of a debate. You can't even have a debate. And this whole thing of, it's sad because right now there has been, like, I think Anurag said some very, very pertinent points that there's almost an imaginary wall that has happened. You're either this side or that side, and it's true that right now you can't be apolitical anymore. Right now you can't be like, I'm still figuring it out, I'm on the fence. It can't happen. Either you're here or you're there. But this whole thing of, if you don't agree with me, you're my enemy. If you don't agree with my viewpoint, or if you don't agree with the government, you're an anti-national, I mean, it makes no sense, because a democracy can only thrive when there is questioning, when there is dissent, when there are protests, because these are the very people who brought you to power, right? These are the very citizens jinka vote count karke, you have a clear majority. So you got to listen to people, and you can never function from a place of arrogance, whether it's political or social or economic. People will and should always question. And this complete clamp down, by authorities, clamp down of dissent is very, very scary, because the day you do not have a voice, you have no individuality, you have no say, you have you have no place in society and and a thriving democracy. I mean, it's not a democracy anymore. It becomes an autocratic government. It becomes a dictatorship, which is what we are probably at a cusp of, and that is what is very scary. It's not about acha tumne ye bola, yeah, let's talk about it. And people who are influencers, I think a lot of responsibility is probably put on their shoulders, but some person also can choose to probably not talk about it, which is fine. You can't force anybody to talk about it, as long as we know what we are in, as long as we know what's happening around us, as long as even if we choose not to talk about something, we know that the consequence of not standing up, the consequence of not choosing to talk, I will bear the brunt of it. As long as you know that, because it's not like if I talk about it, I'm going to go under the bus and you won't, because we're all going down, right? And we are all in this together, because we live together, and we can't think of each other as enemies. We are here together. I mean, if there is no humanity left in society, then what are we even doing? What's the point of earning money and buying a car and buying a house and going on a vacation if there is no humanity left? Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we need to be a little more empathetic. I mean, even if you're in support of the CAA, of course you can be. It's your, but do you have an informed decision? Do you know the facts? Do you have, or are you just, reading WhatsApp forwards and listening to, the media, which is anyway funded by the authorities, and then, is it a clear cut informed choice that you have? And that is very, very important, because I think we can't really put a blind eye to things anymore.
And of course, where the voices who come out also face the brunt of it. There is also, of course there are people, and I think we media otherwise also question celebrities as to why you're not talking, this is the time. But there are also consequences.
It's very funny, because the other day I was doing this thing with India Today, and it wasn't meant to be a debate anyway. So I mean, they just said, okay, we're going to come interview. I was like, okay, fine. I mean, it's not like in fact, when the whole CAA and things had started, I had refrained from giving any kind of interview or doing this kind of exercise, because I felt like this is not important. What I'm saying is not important. What is important is people should talk about what's happening. It's not about personally what you think and what your stand is and things like that. I think collectively what we stand for is important. But it was very funny, because I was asked, after obviously Deepika went and things like that, and I was like, why are you even talking about these things, and when you keep questioning, why isn't Bollywood not talking about it, why are people not talking about it, why A-listers not talking about it, and when they do, then you're like, is it a PR stunt? And I'm like, guys, make up your mind, know. But I guess it's fine. I mean, if you're in the limelight, you are going to get the brunt of either way, you're going to get the brunt. But even if you do, it doesn't matter. I think, nothing is more important right now than talking about the real issues, talking about whether we have the voice to dissent, whether students have the right to protest, and any citizen have the right to protest peacefully, whether we have the right to say no and stand up against any kind of violence from anybody, or, talking about economic growth, talking about what's happening to the economy, talking about farmer suicides, talking about what the currency rate, INR rate is. We should be talking about real issues right now. We should be talking about cutting down trees and RA and, mining and problems of the Adivasis, and we should be talking about real issues. Let's not trivialize it by just talking about she said this and he said this, because it's not important.
Yeah, but you mentioned Deepika, but what happened when she silently, like you said, the right to silently protest, she also chose to silently protest by standing by the JNU students. Then of course the brunt, when I say, is she was producing a film, and then there was the thing about boycotting. The rumors started about how they're changing the attackers' religions, isn't it?
No, it's not shocking anymore. It happens with everything. I mean, people, there is a bunch of people who are getting paid to do it. I mean, there are paid trolls. I mean, come on, the IT cells everyone knows about, and I mean, it's an open secret, you know. Everybody knows it. Everybody still talks about it. Why are you harping about it? It's fine. Let them say whatever. No, how does it matter? Don't watch the film. It's not going to make any difference, you know. Padmavat is, oh, we don't ban it. We don't ban it. It's a huge hit. Thanks to that, it was a huge hit. Urta Punjab was so much like talk about, you know, like ye nahi chalega, wo nahi chalega, we'll ban it, and that's why it became such a huge hit thanks to them wanting to ban it. So it's actually good for the film. There's no problem. Let it be. So you know what I'm saying? So it's not. I mean, I tweeted because I started seeing people were like, you know, saying these kind of things. I was like, listen, man, full power to you. Yeah, more people should do it, and it's great because you need people who are powerful, who are influential, especially because people are obsessed with Bollywood and cricket, for them to come out. I've also said that why has not a single sports person come out and said anything? Why is not a single cricketer? I mean, we know why has not a single cricketer. It's an open secret. Why nobody's talking? So obviously, but I mean, the onus is not only on Bollywood. Yeah, it's also on. I mean, there are so many films made in so many languages in our country. Very few people have from other film industries, vernacular film industries, of regional film industries have come out and spoken about it.
There was some beautiful poetry and that came out also, and I think that is what a lot of artists try to do, to sort of answer the entire violence with saying that, you know, there'll be poetry and prose, and that's another way to look at it as well, isn't it?
It's so beautiful, no? I think revolution, you look at any revolution, there has been amazing art and poetry and literature that has come out of any kind of revolution, you know, and it's the best. I think it's the most, you know, it stays with you, it sticks to you, it moves you, and there is so much that you can do without using violence, you know. There is so much power of words, and there is so much power of poetry and music, and it's incredible that we come from a culture which is incredibly rich, you know. I mean, when I heard that I burst out laughing when they were talking about it was Fairs anti-national. I mean, what are you even talking about, you know? And it's so, like, I have like goose flesh because, you know, in every protest that we've been to, there have been people writing poetry, singing songs, and I've always felt that, you know, through theatre, I've done so much theatre and street theatre, that a lot of it, which it is to sort of, you know, it's like an eye-opener, you know, and there's such a beautiful poetic way to put it, and I think it's incredible, that energy and that creative energy, and if you can use and channelize that creative energy to move people, to change, you know, open eyes and to change their minds and to educate them, you know, or jagrut, you know, to awaken them. I think that is the most beautiful part of any revolution. And, you know, there's so much pain and there's so much darkness and there's so much violence, but, you know, you can counter it with light. And I think art gives you that light.
Your views on CAA have been pretty clear. You have been on social media talking about it, sharing whatever information you have. Have you seen that conversation around you change?
I think there's definitely more awareness. People are talking numbers and talking facts, and more people are mobilized, for sure. And I think by every day, I mean, there are people who's sort of understanding that, you know, it's gone a little beyond. I mean, obviously there is. I mean, it erupted because of the CAA and the NRC, and now then some NPR, like every day there's one new animal that comes out of the zoo. But what I think fundamentally everybody is talking about and wants to sort of is worried about is the normalization of violence, you know. I think it was one thing, of course, I mean, whether or not, I mean, again, CAA and the NRC is a very complicated beast, because why the Northeast and the border states and Assam, you know, are opposing to the CAA and the NRC is very different than why, you know, the rest of India is opposing, right? They're very, very different, because people, I mean, the indigenous people of the Northeast are feeling threatened by the immigrants because there's a loss of opportunity, and it is anyway extremely problematic right now because of the porous borders of the Northeast that we have. So it's a very, so it's one side of the coin of the CAA, But the other side, the rest of India, or things that are happening in Delhi and UP and everywhere, is that people are talking about the discriminatory side of the CAA, the discriminatory side of because it's unconstitutional, because it is absolutely wrong to discriminate against the Muslims. So it's a very complex debate, right? And one has to understand what is it that would be, what does CAA imply? What does the NRC want to do? And then fundamentally what you're trying to crack and hamper, which is India, the core of India. Not a single arrest has been done about the JNU. Nothing has happened. What has been happening in UP, and especially what was happening in the last month in UP with the police, because you see the maximum violence that has broken out is all the states which are directly under the BJP, but the cops are under the BJP.
Dissent becoming is not just popular otherwise, it's also extremely rare to be accepted in the industry that we work for as well, and we are talking about the film industry. Have you faced that, and how did you of course you did move on because you are that kind of person. Have you faced, have you been put in a position where you had to choose that, and did that affect you and your work? How did you deal with it?
It's actually the other way around. I choose not to work. But I'm sure that, it
doesn't matter to you.
No. And I'm not coming from a pompous place. It's really, I'm here to live my life, yeah. If I'm thinking about, I'm not going to get my work, I will get my work because I'm decent at what I do, and it's fine.
You're very good at what you do.
Thank you. But, it's like if somebody is, it's like if somebody chooses not to hire me because I've been vocal about my views or vocal about the fact that I can't keep quiet because I'm human. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but I'm just voicing my opinion because it's not possible for me, for a human, like as a human being, to keep quiet when I see violence. Any kind of violence, if something is happening to him, I'm not somebody who's going to turn away and and be like, okay, it doesn't, it's not my thing. It's not me. So it's not like, and I feel that right now it's not the time to think about myopic things. It really is not, and I've never thought like that. In fact, I've chosen not to work with people who I don't respect because of their political views. Somebody who's very, very active on Twitter. but I cannot work with somebody who is an extremist, who is a bigot. Right? I can't. How do I work with a director who is saying just all kinds of nonsense in life, and then I'm going and saying, okay, sir, what do I do in this shot? I have to respect you to be able to work with you. So that, I think it's pretty clear. I'm not worried about losing work. In fact, I have to say this. I haven't said this in any kind of interview or anything. On the 19th of December, when the big protest was there, I had just come back and I was supposed to, there was a big event in Delhi with a huge multinational brand, and it was something of, Fashion Week, and I was hosting the event. It was a really, really big event for me also, because it was, not only it was a lot of money, but it was also something really big, for 3 days, I kept thinking, I kept telling my managers I can't do it because I have to be there at the protest in Bombay. And they were like, okay. And the night before, especially what happened after, Jamia and AMU, I said I cannot do it, I can't get myself, because earlier I was also thinking that maybe I'll take the money and give it to, the needy, or, I need to be there, and because it's a commitment and things like that. But again, I thought I can't, I have to, if I'm saying so much on Twitter, I might as well be there in person when people are, have taken to the streets. And it was, I mailed them, and there are, I wouldn't name them, but they're a very, very big brand. And I mailed them saying that, I have to put the money where my mouth is, and I cannot be there because I have to be there. I have to be here in Bombay. And trust me, I thought they'll never call me again. They will never probably hire me, and I was okay with it. Yeah. And my managers were very sweet, saying that, it's a very personal decision for you. We respect that. Those guys immediately responded and said, we're really proud of you. We wish more people were like you. So clearly, people are noticing that, maybe I can't come out and say something, but I am supporting you when you're saying it. And I always feel, if you're doing something right, don't think about the consequences. Go with the right intent. Good things will happen. Don't think about, oh, kya hoga, nahi hoga. I don't think like that.
I know you don't, and I think very few people, are at the kind of have shown this sort of blatant decision to really follow the ideology. It's very, very few. You know that it's a different ballgame. Again,
but there are many. I mean, imagine how many people came out in Bombay. Like, can you believe? That, I mean, on that Azad Maidan day, and thank God I didn't go to Delhi, because Delhi on the 19th was crazy. There was like rioting.
And you were planning to?
Yeah, I mean, I was meant to for the event. But in Bombay, like, I don't think anybody could have like envisaged a day where Bombay people, like 2 lakh people have come out of the streets. Like it was crazy, Agast Kranti Marg, and the entire, like, it was like, what's going on, So clearly, I mean, yesterday when I saw Stevens protesting, I was like, okay, this is quite something, I mean, I'm from DU, I went to LSR. But when Stevens comes out and, it's because they are, again, it's a different kind of a culture over there. And I was like, okay, Kuro was great,
I think
a lot of people are.
A lot of support,
and even in the film industry, there are like umpteen number of people, actually more than any other industry I can imagine, I can think of, who have come out and said stuff.
In the last 2 years, films have been called out, discussed, raged upon because of the fact that they normalized violence. What is your view on that? And of course, how important it is that, we don't let that happen?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question, because I've said no to stuff that has violence and violence against women.
But then you're probably the right person to be asking.
No, because I find it very problematic, and hence I didn't do the film. You know, and honestly, it's not about just violence against women. It's just violence, as you rightly said, and I feel that again, it's a very existential question, because I think the society and the times we live in. And the films we see, this whole thing of, again, the gaming culture. There is, I mean, yesterday my friend was watching John Wick, okay, and there was crazy kind of violence, and I was like, how is it even okay to kind of, I mean, obviously it's an action film, but the mindless violence and, and people finding that attractive, right, is I feel, is reflective of, the times we are headed to. And also I have to say this, this, and I'm feeling this more and more, that when I see people rioting or going out and like hitting people or saying bad things and nasty things and being so abusive, even on like social media, or going out there and like picking up weapons, I mean, it's like, I mean, when you see people marching through streets with dandas and hammers and axes, it's like, what have we come to? What have we done to ourselves? Where are we getting so much hatred from? And I think we got to go and sort of a little bit contemplate. I mean, obviously it's instigated, but I mean, obviously there is a great amount of frustration and unemployment and and just unhappiness probably in people, which I feel has again to do with the mental health of the society we live in. And I think this kind of violence against each other and thinking you're my enemy and you're not my enemy, and this whole thing of Islamophobia or just being racist or just having any kind of or sexist or problems vis-a-vis other people, and this whole idea of us and them is I think at the crux of everything that we are facing right now. And I think the only answer is love. The only answer, when this whole police thing was happening, the brutality was happening, I was like, I just wish, you know, people could just like be smiling and be like, you want to hit me, like, and it's difficult, right? I mean, what do you do when you're like, you see videos of, you know, batons on you and like stamping, they're stamping on your feet. It's just crazy. But still, that image of the girl giving that flower, you know, that rose to the cop, I think it's one of the greatest images ever of modern times, because the only way you can win them over is with love. And I'm not trying to sound romantic or poetic, but that's the only answer to everything. Love.
No, thank you so much, Shiny. I think
Thank you.
it's wonderful to be chatting with you.